If you're a sports coach, if you're an adventure sports coach, and you're interested in mental performance and getting the best out of yourself and your athletes, this video will be useful to you. The following video is an hour long, and hopefully you'll look at that and think, wow, there must be a lot of content in that. And there is. So the video was recorded on a webinar between myself and several other psychological coaches, athletic hypnotists, etc., who were delivering a webinar to American athletes to help them get the extra performance edge they need in their competitive sports. They kindly videoed it, and they've sent the recording over to me, and I'm now sharing it with you. So in the video, which is an hour long, I give over one or two techniques that are incredibly powerful to make visualization far more effective for you in your sporting environments. So if you're a coach or an athlete in traditional sports or adventure sports, get a notepad, sit down, watch the video, and if you want to have an impact on the performers or your own performance in a sporting environment with psychological techniques, there's some real gold in this video. Thank you very much for having me. Hello to all the American people who've invited me into this webinar. I'm very flattered. Thank you very much. So I'm over in the UK at the moment, which is where I spend most of my life. So my name's Adam Evans, and I'm a professional climbing, caving, canoeing, and expedition leader. That's what I do as a job. But alongside that, I'm also quite heavily focused into the mental skills and the mental performance field. And that's from the world of adventure sports that I work in. I'm actually a qualified clinical hypnotherapist, and I've actually done some extremely interesting additional training in hypnosis for sports performance. So that's kind of my whole slant on life is helping people to improve. I'm also pretty much into the NLP scene as well. I'm a master NLP worker. So I use my NLP and I use my hypnosis and I use a bunch of other stuff that I'm trained in to basically guide people and train people to improve various aspects of their life. I do it in the outdoors and I do it in not so outdoors situations. I'm connected to an adventure sports coaching degree at Derby University, where I'm one of the technical coaches there, and I'm an occasional guest lecturer, where I use many of my skills that I've got from different aspects of my abilities to help people perform. So I do it in caves, mountains, jungles, deserts, canoes, you name it, I kind of work in it really. I've been very fortunate over my career, and I've worked with some pretty well-known companies. So last year I was working over in Thailand with National Geographic. I'm sure you guys have heard of the BBC as well. I've worked for those guys. And I've done things like train police organisations and paramedic organisations as well in various skills. So I kind of do the mindset stuff and I do the physical stuff. So all those kind of motivational posters you see of people climbing on rock faces and canoeing down rivers, in various sports webinar practices. Well, actually, I do that. I actually do that stuff. I don't just talk about it. I do it. Okay, so that's a little about me. And Joni asked me to give you a bit of a talk and then come in with a skill. So that's what I've got here. So I've got quite a few notes I'm going to read through because I make sure I want to try and give you a good experience. Okay, so my aim for you guys is to impress upon everybody the value of good quality mental rehearsal and mental practice, to make sure that people, they don't just tick the box and yeah, mental rehearsal, mental practice. Because I noticed, certainly when I'm working in the UK, that most people kind of just tick box it verbally and don't actually do it. It's a whole part of the training that people just ignore. And I know through the hypnosis training and through the NLP training that it's fundamental to your development as a sports performer. So not only do I want to impress on the value of it, but I actually want to give you a tool that you can go away and improve, like a roadmap or a recipe to get the quality of your mental rehearsal and mental practice improved. So the better you see it, feel it, and hear it inside your own head, the better it will feel. So to do that actual tool, to give you that talk through, you are going to need some technical instruments, a pad of paper and a scribbling stick or a pen or a pencil, just something that you can record what we're going through, because we're going to go through a whole bunch of stuff, and you're going to need to write it all down, because if I can't remember it and I've got it in notes, I'm sure you guys aren't going to remember just throwing it out verbally. On top of a notepad and a pen, you are going to need one human brain that's actually running Human Imagination Software 2.0, okay? So make sure that is on and switched on, playing the game with us today, because if it doesn't, there's no point in talking. Actually put that stuff into use. So what got me into the world of mental preparation and mental rehearsal and practice was a bit of an epiphany I had with a client of mine. Back in the days when I was just a canoeing instructor, and I used to go out and just play in canoes. And I realized the potency of mental rehearsal when I had an interaction with a client. I had a client who'd been canoeing with me for quite a while, and he'd done several big expeditions with me in his canoe, and then he became ill. He had a physical illness that basically took him out of the world of canoeing for 18 months. And I felt, desperately sorry for this guy, because he was a healthy, virile guy who basically reduced to a bit of a shell of a man. And he had 18 months off that's depleted him physically. And eventually, after 18 months, he regained his physical health. And of course, when he got his physical health back, he wanted to get back into canoeing. So he gave me a call. He said, can I have a polish up? Can I have a refresh, a reskilling on some of the canoe stuff? So absolutely no problem at all. So he booked me for a couple of days. And bearing in mind, he's had 18 months off, and he came to me and he'd only had about 4 weeks of what we'll consider physical health back. And he'd been wise enough to kind of condition his body, but he'd not canoed in 18 months. So before he was ill, he was a bit of a medium to sort of high grade paddler, not a top end paddler, medium to high grade paddler. And he got about in a canoe and he was learning quite well. So he came to me for 2 days of canoe coaching, and I fully anticipated this guy to be sat in his boat, feeling a bit wobbly, needing a bit of tender loving care to get him back on the water. And he blew my mind. He got in the boat and he paddled not only at the level that he'd been originally paddling at, he paddled beyond it. Technically, his skills had shot up. He was far more balanced, far more agile, and far more in the zone whilst he was paddling than I'd ever seen him paddle before. And I was truly, truly shocked, and obviously completely pleased, because it meant I could coach him to an even higher level at that point. But to see him be at his A game and beyond from 18 months off was just phenomenal. So I questioned him, and I wanted to know how he'd coped and what he'd done. And how to get from 18 months of not canoeing. And I don't know about you guys, but if you took me out of my sport for 18 months and sat me in a hospital bed for 18 months, I'd be, I wouldn't be able to do anything as well as I had been able to. So I just questioned and said, what have you done to do this? And his reply was incredible. He basically said, as soon as the doctors allowed him to, he began his physical training. Now, obviously, he was pretty emaciated, but he began his physical training. He was eating properly and doing weights exercises and doing various exercises. Now, I'm not a physical coach, so I don't know exactly what he did, but he started to eat well and condition himself. And each day, every day, he made a little progress. He made a little physical progress. But he balanced that progress and also ensured he didn't damage himself, he didn't injure himself, he didn't reopen any old wounds or exacerbate any injuries. So he made a little bit of progress every day, and he conditioned his body. But he'd not had the ability to paddle a canoe for 18 months. Now canoeing is a very unique sport, because it requires you on occasions to have high levels of power, because you've got to be able to shift a lot of water through your paddle and get that boat, which is 16 feet long, moving through the water. But also, you've got to be able to have a lot of stamina, because sometimes you're paddling a canoe for 8 hours a day. So it's kind of like 1 minute you're sprinting, next minute you're marathon running. But not only that, when you're taking a canoe into a technical environment like white water, there's a lot of judgment, a lot of skill, a lot of technique that's involved. So it's a very all-encompassing sport. And that was the point that I realized that he not only physically rejuvenated in such a short period of time, but his technical ability was beyond what he'd ever done before. So I kind of wanted to dip into that, say, how have you maintained this? How do you maintain this ability? And he said, quite simply, when he was at hospital and when he was at home recovering, every day he would spend some time thinking about canoeing. And he'd spend every day thinking about the trips that he was going to go on. He was thinking about how good it would feel to go on the trips, how he would break certain journeys that he'd done with me down into little bite-sized chunks, and he'd think about the quality of the paddle strokes he was going to do, how he's going to move his body in the boat. And he did that on expedition size scenarios in his head. He did that on day trip scenarios in his head. And then he broke it down into individual sections of rivers where he could imagine himself using his boat, using his paddle, using his body properly. And that was the big fundamental impact it had on his performance as a paddler, to be able to come out of 18 months of illness and injury to get straight back into a boat and perform at such a high level. And so that for me was a bit of a defining moment. I thought, wow, okay, cool. So there's a little bit more to this visualization game than we think. So I think that was probably one of the things that catapulted me into doing more research and more training into the sports mental game coaching world. But that, I realize, is just an anecdotal story of one person. So we need to consider that there's far more evidence out there for the world of mental game and hypnotic coaching in the sports world than most people are aware of. There's one end of the world that seems to think hypnosis is this crazy elusive little thing that's all a bit woo and crystals and chakras. And then if you actually get into the kind of science world of the sporting world, it becomes very closely embedded with flow state. So here is some academic findings and research on the power of hypnosis in sports. Okay, so perception of effort during exercise can be systematically increased or decreased with hypnotic suggestion. Even though the actual physical workload is maintained at a constant level, furthermore, alterations in effort sense are associated with significant changes in metabolic responses in the brain activation as measured in MRI scanners. And that was found out by Morgan in 2002. So in other words, to boil that down, it seems easier even though it isn't. Okay, that's just through hypnosis. Then Barker and Jones and Greenlees in 2013 said quite simply, hypnosis is great at enhancing the self-efficacy of performers. Okay, that's what they found in their study. People felt they were more able to do things when they'd been through hypnotic training. Feltz in 2008, 2000, and 1996 concluded that self-efficacy and beliefs are the most influential psychological constructs mediating sports achievement. So in other words, whether you think you can, or whether you think you can't, you're probably right. Okay, so if hypnosis can affect your belief systems and your self-efficacy, and self-efficacy can affect your performance, well, we need to consider that quite considerably. Barker and Jones in 2005 and 2006 and 2008 used hypnosis to improve the self-modeling capabilities of athletes. They could reflect on their own capability, their own performance better by using hypnosis. By doing that, they could also increase their own feedback, their internal feedback. They could also increase through hypnosis their own imagery and visualization skills through hypnosis. That's all through one modality we're talking about. Dr. Donald R. Liggett in 2000 in the American Journal of Clinical Hypnosis concluded that it would enhance the performance of athletes. Okay. Self-hypnosis. Research by Eason and Paris at Bournemouth University in the UK in 2019, so pretty recent study, states that imagery with self-hypnosis increases performance and it makes the self-imagery more effective. So as sports performers, you'll probably agree with the research findings of Locke from 1981. And that's as sports performers are better at having goals because having goals directs their attention. Sports performers have goals and that helps them mobilize their efforts. Sports performers have goals and that enhances their persistence, And then sports performers having goals can develop new learning strategies. So what I'm going to say now is, in light of the situation where access to sporting situations physically is reduced, as sports performers, the new goal is to increase the mental performance to get ready to go back to the physical environment. So change the goal. The goal is to learn a new skill. Okay, so there's my little rhetoric over and done with. So what's the technique? What's the exercise? What we're going to do is to map out how we visualize things and how we experience things in our own head. Now, we have to be careful because we use this word visualize. And if we're really, really good, we aren't just visualizing, we are completely experiencing in many different ways. We're having feelings, hearings, seeings, the whole thing's going on. It's a complete package. So once we've done that, we'll have a bit of a recipe, a bit of a set of techniques that we can then use to create our own good quality experiences for ourselves. So instead of saying what a lot of coaches do to their clients when they're training them, just visualize yourself, well, we need to be a bit more specific. It's a bit like saying at the start of a race, just race. So, well, how do you want me to race? What speed? What stroke should I use? Yeah, if it was that simple, we would never do that for a physical training session. So why would we do that for a mental training session? So what I want is just give you guys the opportunity to elicit a roadmap for yourself. So what you're going to do is take your pad of paper, which is hopefully a pad of about A3. I don't know whether you guys have A3 or I don't know what your paper sizes are. You guys use gallons and miles, and we use miles and kilometers and pounds, and we can do all kinds of stuff. So if you've got a pad of paper about that big, that'll do. And all I want you to do is basically just have 3 columns down the paper. Okay. And on the far left column, just put the heading at the top, qualities. And then the column in the middle, experience 1. And then the column on the right, experience 2. So this is going to be a bit long-winded and a bit laborious because I've got to get you to write down the form that you're going to use for all your visualizations. But once you've done it once, you've got your roadmap. Okay? So on the quality side, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the 3 or 4 different ways that we can experience things in our own mind. And we experience things in our own mind visually. We see stuff. We experience things in our own mind auditory. We hear stuff. And we also feel stuff inside ourselves. And we also remember things feeling different outside. And of course, more subtly, we can often identify with smells and tastes. Okay. Now, we need to elicit the qualities of some of those individual experiences. So what we're going to do is go through just the visuals first. So in column qualities on the left-hand side, you're going to write visuals. Okay. And then underneath that, we're going to be a little bit more specific about how we are visually constructing things. So we're not just going to say, we're seeing stuff. We're going to say, right, how am I seeing stuff? So really importantly, your first line down underneath visuals, we're going to have probably about 8 to 10 of them. We'll just go with it, and I'll tell you what to do. So the first line, just write color or black and white. Just color / black and white. So that's whether you're going to see something in color or see it in black and white. Now, some of you might be going, well, of course, I always see everything in color. Not everybody does. We all do it differently. So the first one is color, black and white. The next one is brightness, dimness. It's whether you see something in a bright way or a dim way. So I'm going to rattle through these now, and I'm going to give you them in kind of the either or, okay? And you just write them down. So we've had color, black and white, brightness and dimness. Next line, focus, in or out. Next line, edges or wrap around. Next line, frame, no frame. Next line, distance. Next line, size. Next line, location. Next line, movie or still. Next line, 2D, 3D. Next line, now I'll clarify with this, associated or disassociated. Now what that actually means is associated, for people that aren't into the lingo, we use an awful lot of lingo in our world. Associated means when you see it, you're seeing it through your own eyes. Disassociated means when you see it, you're seeing yourself doing it. Okay? And the last line for the visuals is shape. Now, did you get all that? I hope so. So we're going to go color, black and white, brightness, dimness, in and out of focus, edges wrap around, frame, no frame, distance, size, location. Oh, I missed location, excuse me. Don't just put that at the bottom, location. It doesn't really matter where it is. Movie or still, 2D, 3D, associated, dissociated, shape. Now, when you think of that, that's an awful lot of nuance just for the visual. That's gone from just see it to, well, are you seeing it in color? Is it moving? Is it 3D? Is it over there? Is it? Okay, so that's really quite important. Now, moving on to auditory. Now, when people are visualizing stuff or mentally preparing, sometimes auditory is key, sometimes not, but we'll write it all down anyway, so then you've got your own roadmap. So the first thing is, in auditory, are there any significant sounds? I just think, are there any sounds? Because when you remember stuff, sometimes there's a sound set there, sometimes there's not. Doesn't matter. Just think about it, write it down, sound. And the next question is, of course, what's the qualities of the sounds? Is it loud or is it quiet? Next line is the pitch high or low? The next line is the sound soft and gentle or is it harsh? Next line, where's the location of the sound? That's interesting because sometimes you can hear the sound in your head, sometimes you can hear it in your ears, sometimes you can hear it in your body, sometimes it's outside of your body, sometimes it's in the background, sometimes it's other people. So that location is kind of cool as well. Next, have the tempo, fast or slow. Next, you've got rhythm. Next, you've got melodious or grating. Next, you've got type of sound, whether it's a voice, music, birds chirping. And finally, continuous or intermittent. Again, we've got a whole bunch of qualities, of nuances within the sound. We've only got a few go to, guys, so don't worry. You're building your list, and you can now type this up and make yourself a really, really useful little book. In a lovely world, I've emailed it to you, but we haven't had time for that. So next, we're going to go into the kinesthetic or the feelings, okay? What things feel like. Remember, there's two types of feelings, what we feel inside and what we feel outside. Are there any significant feelings? Okay. Do those feelings feel hot or cold? They could be on the outside or the inside, remember. Do those feelings have a size? It can be a sense of I feel small or it feels big or it feels small, but the point is you might be a size. Do the feelings have a continuous sense or are they intermittent? Do the feelings feel rough or smooth? Do they have a sense of pressure, heavy or light? Where are the feelings? Are they in or out? Are they moving or still? Next line down would be strong or weak feelings. Next line down would be dry or wet. So again, there's a whole bunch of stuff there that could be internal or could be external. It depends on what we're thinking. And finally, the good news is this is quite a short list because not many people use these particular senses to remember. Some people do, it depends on what the speciality in life is. But are we getting smellies? Are we getting tasties? Are we getting sweet and sour, salt and bitter, aroma, fragrance? So just put significant smell or taste. Sweet, sour, salt, bitter, aroma, fragrance. Just chuck those down. So hopefully now what you've got is a left-hand column with stuff you can see, stuff you can hear, stuff you can feel, stuff you can smell and taste. And you've got a whole bunch of nuances for each individual modality. Okay, cool. Then you've got middle column experience 1, middle column experience 2. Phew, right, you've now got your form to use for the rest of your life, and it'll be easy. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Now, I don't think, I'm just looking at here, we've got 3:26. Whether we're going to have enough time, I don't know. I'd rather walk you through it and talk you through it, and you do this in your own time, than try and do it with you over a chat. I don't think it's going to happen over a webinar. But it's a very simple concept, very simple. So you might want to just take some notes on this. Step one is pick something you're good at and you find easy and you enjoy, okay? I'm sure you find brushing your teeth easy, but I'm not sure you enjoy it, you know? So make sure you find it easy, you're good at, and you enjoy, okay? Something you can do 100%. Yep, I know it. I can do that. And you're going to close your eyes and remember as best you can as you remind yourself on how you experience that activity. And this is about listing how you do it. I don't want to know whether, you are brushing your teeth in a mirror. I want to know how you're doing it. When you think about brushing your teeth in the mirror, is the picture of you brushing your teeth in the mirror in color or black and white? Is it in focus or out of focus? Does it have a frame or not? Does the picture wrap around you or not? Is the picture low, medium, high? Is the picture to the left? Is the picture to the right? Okay. So that's the important thing, is I would suggest you do this with someone who knows you well enough and you trust, and they can go through this checklist with you as you close your eyes and fully engage with that memory of you doing things particularly well, 100% that you enjoy. And go through all the things you see, all the things you hear, all the things you feel, all the things you smell. And if there's nothing there to smell, don't worry about it. But just pay crucial attention. Just go right back to that time that you did that thing really well, and you know you can do it, you're enjoying it really, 100%. And not what, but how you're doing it. Whether it's moving, whether it's still, whether it's 3D, whether it's 2D, whether any warmth there, whether any cold there. You get the idea? That's how you encode that particular experience. Cool. Once you've done that, you probably want to go and give yourself a glass of water, walk around the house, do some jumping jacks, I don't know, anything at all, just to kind of shake that off, because you will be quite involved with that, I'm quite sure. Then you're going to come back and you're going to go through step 2, which is experience 2. Now here's the cool bit. You're going to find or think about something that you want to improve on, that you want to get better on. There's probably just at the edge of your comfort zone, not something stratospherically totally unobtainable, something that's just at the end of your comfort zone, something that's a goal you're working towards in the kind of near to immediate future. Not, I'm going to be representing the Olympics in 10 years' time. Let's do something achievable within the next 6 months. Okay. And then what you're going to do now is you're going to go through the experience of step 2 using the entire list again. You're going to think about that one event that you want to do, that you're training for, and go and close your eyes and with someone else go through that long list of qualities that you're thinking about seeing and hearing and feeling. And again, map out how you do it. You might notice that you see it in a particular way, you hear it in a particular way, you feel it in a particular way. And then you're going to have 2 sets of how you imagine things. You're going to have your successful way of imagining things and your potential way of imagining things that's going to be successful. We'll get there in a minute. Now, if you look down at the list, I'd be surprised to find out that they were the same. You'll probably find that there's differences. Usually when we've got a 100% successful goal that we know we can achieve and we're 100% happy with it and we enjoy, we imagine it and see it and remember it in a very particular way. And then when there's a goal that we're working towards, there are sometimes nuances that are different. And it's those nuances that are going to make all the difference. So once you've got your list of your, I can do this, and I want to do this, experience 1 and experience 2, here's what you do. Any quality that's in experience 1 that you know you can do, you then map over onto experience 2, the thing you want to do. So for example, if experience 2, where the thing that you want to do is being thought about and it's out of focus and it's a still picture, and experience 1 is pin sharp, bright color, and it's a movie, well, guess what? You need to bring not what you're seeing, but how you're seeing it into experience 2. So experience 2, you're going to use that wonderful human brain with operating software imagination 2.0, and you're going to say, right, this picture is now going to start moving. Make the picture move. Don't care how, make the picture move. Make something in the picture move. Make a person in the picture move. Make a pot plant in the picture move. Don't care, just make it move somehow. And then once you do something like that, you can then change the next quality and go, I'm going to bring it into focus. Any quality that's from the I can 100% do is going to get mapped over into the I want to do. So what happens then is the I want to do starts to change. It starts to become more believable. Okay? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is really important. Because if you can start believing in what you're thinking about, you'll start to be able to think you can do it. You have to be careful with that, because when you start to think you can do things, you end up doing them. It's really scary. Okay, so I'm just catching up on my notes here. Okay, so again, you want to make sure you do this with someone who can help you do it. So when you're going through experience 2, any differences, the person you're sitting with will help you through this. Will say, right, so experience 2, you need to make it like this. You just close your eyes and do it. Use your imagination. Any qualities you bring into it. Now, what you'll probably find is the thing you want to get good at, the thing you want to improve at, the thing you want to do will suddenly become more compelling, more inviting, more achievable, more attainable. And you'll go, oh, wow, okay, that actually seems doable right now. That's really cool. So, A, do this with something that is not quite an essential goal right now. Let's just do it with something that's not quite critical. So practice this technique now with something that's not quite critical and get the skills to do it. And then gradually build this technique into more and more important things until you can develop the skills to do those things. And here's the double good thing. You've now got a recipe to use in your visualizations, to use in your mental rehearsals, to use in your mental practice. You don't just have to use it in one situation for one activity. You now know that when you need to visualize things, when you need to see things, hear things, smell things, touch things, feel things, if you do it like the one in experience 1, where you know 100% you can do it and you feel good when you're doing it, if you use that in your visualizations for any of the training sessions you're going to do in your mind, it will feel more realistic. It will feel more tangible. It will feel more engaged with it. And that's damn powerful. So you've now got your free little recipe card to say, well, okay, when I do it, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it dead good. So hopefully that's a lot better and a lot more useful than the average, just go visualize stuff. Hopefully you go, okay, I know exactly how I'm going to visualize this stuff. Okay, cool. So that's your recipe card. Okay, so let's move on a little bit. Okay, let's just move on because I've now lost my notes. I've been talking off the cuff so much. And now I realize I don't need to have my notes. I can do it without. Okay, so moving on. So when you're going to use this in your mental practice, really break the two words down. It's mental practice. It's not just visualizations, it's mentally practicing something. There's a whole bunch of research out there that says that people that mentally practice things get huge results. I can't remember the name of the research. I think it was something to do with shooting basketballs, I think it was. They took 3 groups of people. 3 groups of people. None of them were high caliber sports people. They took 3 groups of people, and they had one group that was just taught physical stuff. You know, here's to shoot the basketball. Then they took one group of people and they allowed them to play with the basketball a little bit. Then they did a few shots, okay, gave them a bit of coaching, and then told them to go away for a week. And they weren't allowed to play with the basketball, but what they had to do was to visualize doing the precision activity repetitively. So one's actually being trained, one is being coached to visualize the experience. And then they had a 3rd group, which was just given a few shots at the basketball, and then, you know, they kind of told them what to do, give them a bit of input. And the 3rd group didn't do anything. They didn't do any physical practice. They didn't do any mental practice. Here's the cool thing. When all 3 groups came back together, guess what? The group that had done the physical practice, as you might expect, were the highest performers. The 3rd group that did no practice at all, neither physically or mentally, were shockingly bad. And the group that just did mental practice, after an initial bit of, you know, a little bit of physical coaching at the start, they were only a few % down behind the physical ones, which just shows you that there's an awful lot of power inside the mind if you're doing it properly. So I think we need to, as professional coaches and professional athletes, devote a little bit of time to mental practice. So going on to mental practice, how you approach your mental practice is completely down to you. My advice would be approach it with the same level of focus, intention, and potential as you do your physical practice. We all know that we do physical practice sometimes as a bit of, we're just going to turn up and kick a ball around or just do a few laps around the pool, whatever. We have those little coasting days. But we also know that when we're going out to do certain levels of performance, we're building up, we train specifically. We train with intention. The same thing has to be applied to your mental practice. You're not just going to sit down and go, I'm going to do a few visualizations. Sit down and do some intentional visualization work, some intentional practice. Okay? When you sit down and you begin to hallucinate the kind of things we're talking about here, we deliberately construct this concept in our head, this experience in our head, it's self-hypnosis. And you get a lot of people go, I can't do hypnosis, I can't hallucinate. Well, guess what? If you're a sports performer, you can. Why? Because flow state, which all sports performers will know about, when they're on their game, they're in the zone, they're performing, they're mindless, they're just doing things with great fluidity. When you're in that zone and you're not having to think, it's just doing it, it's just happening. That, guys, is hypnosis. When you're doing things without thought, you're doing things with automaticity. I can't even say it. I can't even try and say it. Automatic ability. You're trying to do things with automatic ability. That is non-cognitive. It's flow state. It's hypnosis. So the cool thing is, frame it as yourself as I'm an athlete. I can do things without thinking about it. This is just a skill. Because hypnosis is identical to being in flow state. So if you can get yourself in a flow state and create this mental game, you're going to be one step ahead of everybody else that can't. So here's some things to bear in mind when we're doing the flow state, when we're getting into the mental game. You need to have some intention behind what you're going to do. Find a comfortable place to begin each mental training session and set it down as, I am going to mentally practice. I'm not going to sit down on a couch and just chill out. I am going to mentally practice, okay? And wherever you're going to mentally practice, it doesn't matter whether you sit or whether you stand, because self-hypnosis is not a sense of relaxation. It is a sense of internal focus, internal potential, internal intention. So it doesn't need to be sitting or standing or lying down. You can choose wherever you feel comfortable, but wherever it is, do it without any distractions. And go into this whole process with an optimistic attitude and give yourself a pep talk beforehand that helps you create this experience. It helps to repeat phrases in your mind or out loud. Simple phrases like, I'm going to mentally practice. I'm going to make this experience my reality. I'm motivated to learn this skill. They're very powerful, very self-focused, very autonomous phrases which say, I am in control of what I'm doing. I'm going to practice mentally. I'm going to make this my experience, my reality. I'm motivated to learn this important skill. And as Mark and Joni have elucidated too, there's different ways of going into a state of hypnosis or a state of internal reflection. So you can go into that place of comfort, whether you're standing or sitting, and simply focus on a spot on the wall. Focus on a comfortable feeling within your body. Or just focus on your breathing. It doesn't matter. Just choose something to focus on, because it's focus, allowing that sense of focus to develop inside of you. And you can say quietly and encouragingly to yourself, as soon as I'm ready to focus completely on this mental practice, my eyes will close. And you can just repeat that mantra. Listen to your breath, feel your feet on the floor. Doesn't matter. Become very engaged and very focused on anything you like. And as soon as I'm ready to completely focus on this mental practice, my eyes will close. As soon as I'm ready to completely focus on this mental practice, my eyes will close. And you'll probably find after just a few times, you will get into the zone of going, I can do this now. I can do this now. And then calmly and naturally, your eyes will begin to close. And when your eyes have calmly begun to close, you can continue that mental mindset of having a sense of potential. Throughout the experience, you can fully expect things to go well, because it's important to remember you're an active agent in this important skill that you're learning. Learning techniques like this are no different to any other technique in a sporting environment. As you know from your sporting environment, if you try too hard to learn a technique, it doesn't happen. If you're too passive when you learn a technique, it doesn't happen. So you need to find that beautiful balance of in the middle of like, I'm doing it with intention, but I'm not struggling, I'm not forcing, I'm allowing and focusing. Allowing the focusing. And as soon as you identify within yourself that you have withdrawn inside and become more meditative, more contemplative, more intended, you can go through your visualization, your hallucination, your mental practice, your mental rehearsal, whatever label you want to give it, you can go through that. Which brings me on to allowing yourself to go through things at the right pace. Over time, you will develop the ability to visualize, mentally rehearse, and practice. And your goal will be to do this at the same speed that you do your activity. Hurdlers that have been trained to visualize can visualize their events to within 1/10 of a second to what they actually run it. So when you get good, you can do that. But there are parts of certain sports, and I know I'm speaking to lots of different people here, and I know there are parts of certain sports that there are individual skills that need to be corrected, enhanced, or honed. So when you're trying to develop and enhance a particular skill, it pays dividends to slow that particular aspect of your skill training right down so that you can really engage with the speed that your hand moves or the angle that your foot rotates. And you can really engage with all the nuances and detail that go inside that visualization. And when you perfect it in your mind, and you perfect every attribute of it in your mind, then when you know that you're doing it properly and that intuition will come, and you know you're doing it properly, you can build that speed up until it starts to go at the speed that you do the activity at normally. until again you can take that particular, might be a paddle stroke because I teach canoeing, you can take that particular racket movement and it becomes so intuitively part of your neurology that your body will just follow, because what your brain does, your body will follow millionths of a second later. And once you've done all that, you'll probably find that your performance will increase many times. Once you've taken the opportunity to go through the visualization, increase the qualities of it with your little roadmap you've got, learning to go through at the right pace with the right intention, you'll probably come to the end of your mental practice session. And when you come to the end of your mental practice session, you can allow yourself to come back into the now and bring your full, undivided, continuous attention to where you are. The only thing you might want to consider doing for doing your mental practice is, it might seem a bit odd, but you can wear the clothes you wear when you do your event. If you're sitting there in your swimming costume in your lounge, maybe you want to let people know about it firsthand. If you're a javelin thrower, don't do it in a confined space. But if you wear the clothes and hold the equipment, your neurology will start to identify with the things that you're wearing. You'll get the sense of the smell of the equipment, the feel of the equipment on your body, so it becomes totally natural to you. So when you pick up the equipment to go out on the ice to play ice hockey, when you pick up your racket, when you put your swimming hat on, your brain will go, swimming hats on, we're ready to rock and roll. We are now in the zone, we're ready to perform. If you do that with your mental visualization, by God, by the time you get back to the pool, the pitch, the track, you're going to be a lot further down the road than other athletes have been sitting there going, oh, I didn't been able to train. I couldn't go to the track today and run. Well, I ran in my mind 50 times today. So there we go. That is, wow, I did 47 minutes today for you, Joni. 47 minutes, and I did a little bit of note taking. And that's basically a bit of a roadmap for you guys to take away to increase the quality of your visualizations and to improve it for you, to do it with a structured, methodical, I keep using the word intentional, but that's it, a key intentional potential approach. And there we go. Done. Any questions?
I have 2 questions, actually.
Oh no.
No, I really loved it. I've actually been fortunate enough that I think I started when I was 13. My coach would kind of trick us into doing this. So we would show up to practice. It was early in the morning, and we would be prepared for practice. So we had the intentionality. We were there for a certain time, and then we were going to do in our dry land. I think he used the word visualization, and he would start with, there's something hot or cold on your face. And then it would go and all those
brilliant
suggestions you just said. I really love the recipe card because I've never thought of being able to curate it. So my 2 questions are, the first one, when you're at home, and because I mostly experienced it at a practice where someone else was doing it for me, but I really want to also carve out time for myself. So I was curious, how long do you recommend at the beginning for being your mental practice? Is it 20 minutes? Is it only 10? How do you start, and how much time do you need?
Well, it's a bit of a tricky one because it's going to depend on the event. So, for example, if you're a marathon runner, doing 2.5 hours, 3 hours of mental practice, probably not so good. For a marathon runner, for someone who's doing long distance events, they might want to focus on key aspects where they think that's where the hurdle is for them, the metaphorical hurdle. They might be thinking, if they're coming off the blocks, might be a key thing for a sprinter, or doing a long distance swim, for example. There might be parts of the long distance swim you think, okay, this is the time of the day that I need to tuck into my resources a little bit. So your question was, how long should you mentally practice for? And yes is the answer. I would suggest you build up, because just remember, mental practice is going to be just like any other practice you've ever done before. You're a swimmer, right? Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you think back to your baby days when you first started swimming, somebody didn't put you in the pool and expect you to do what you can do now. So build up. Build up the sections of your visualization, are the sections of the performance you want to improve. That would be my top tip. So you don't have to do hours of visualization. Do visualizations on the key sections that you think are going to be important to you. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And then over time, you can extend that visualization for whatever duration that you require to perform it.
Okay, thank you. I
No
have
worries.
another question, but if anyone else has another thing they want to say, I don't want to hog all the time.
No. Your questions are important, and because you're probably asking questions that other athletes have. I would just like to say that, as you know, Chelina, that self-hypnosis and the audios that you use and all that, that's another way to prepare and visualize on a regular basis without having to put in a lot of time, because you're doing that as you go to sleep, or as you're about to take your nap. As you know, Brian Murphy requested that we do that nap audio, that, you know, whatever time that happens to be. But I love this expansion and all of the details, and I love this recipe card that Adam has provided. I think it's a wonderful guide. I know, you know, we all do visualization in our own way, but I'm certainly going to use a lot of the information that you just provided to make mine even more vivid and helpful, and, you know, have that actually work. I wanted to mention one more thing, so I didn't forget. I also, when you talked about the senses, you went through the senses really well. I like the way that you have the first visualization, and then the second one, and then how you combine those two. But as far as gustatory and olfactory, you know, the taste and the scent, I have athletes, especially teens, well, even individuals, after they've experienced success, I have them prepared with a scent, the scent of winning, so that they can reinforce that. And so they, as a team, a lot of my teams have, it's a great group exercise too, as well, for them to get together and it's a team bonding exercise, and actually decide on, maybe go shopping for, and coaches love this because they're always looking for team bonding exercise to go and you know, it's an opportunity for them to have to work together to decide. And it can, you know, they can use their own individual, but if you're a team sport like a volleyball team, something, it's better to use it to agree and use that scent. So they'll put it on the wrist right after they win the first match. They smell that scent of winning, right? And then maybe if things don't go so well, they need to bring more focus, more energy, and they've already trained these things, you know, over the season. Put that other scent on, that, you know, not to be aversive, but to motivate them, and also send a signal to the brain that we're going to reorganize, reset, refocus, and do something different. We've got to put some different things in place. Smell that, right? Taste is very, very easy. It can be a matter of the flavor of whatever sports drink they're drinking, or, you know, a lot of them have the power gels, and we can go on and on about the different products that they have. But they can choose a flavor, the flavor of winning, the flavor of needing to reset. You know, again, I'm not going to say losing.
You're talking about placing, it depends on what school you're talking to. You're talking about placing psychological triggers.
Yes.
NLP would call it anchors. It's the same damn thing. It's just a different language.
That's right. We're anchoring that sensation, and also reinforcing. Reinforcing, and then also moving forward, motivating, either maintaining what just happened, right? Keeping what just happened. We've got this, or maintaining that, or resetting.
Absolutely.
That can be done very quickly. And in sports, you know, certain sports it has to, you know, and Chelina, like in your sport with swimming, your events may be close together and they may not. You may have more time to do that. So yeah, you know, there's always adjustment. There's always, you know, just making a plan that fits that particular athlete or team. And that's why it's so important. And the coaches that are watching and will be watching, there'll be many of them, you know, that I appreciate your feedback, and we need that information to make it fit for your team, your environment, your situation, your goals. So that's just a little something I wanted to add in there, because I love, you know, as you know, I like to engage all the senses. Chelina, what else did you have for a question?
Yeah, so I've never heard of, like, when you started explaining the 3 sections, I was like, okay, I got it. I think I understand qualities, experience. And then you really threw me for a loop for experience too.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
And I think that I did have to step out, so I do apologize if you already explained this, but I remember you saying that you walk around, you take a little break after you do experience 1, and then you're adapting in experience 2. So if you took something well from experience 1, you're bringing it into experience 2.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, I just want to make sure I'm getting it correctly, and for the people who I hope to explain to, I understand for. So how is experience 2 different than just an elevated experience 1? Is an experience 2 the next day of training, like mental training? Is it like how you were saying creative imagination 3.0, 4.0? And so I just wanted to make sure I understood the difference, both of the values from experience 1 and experience 2. Does that make sense?
I think so. And let me clarify. First thing, you're welcome to contact me after this webinar. So if I don't clear everything up for you now, you're welcome to give me a call and I'll explain things in greater detail. So here's what we're doing. Firstly, you've got experience 1, the thing you do really, really well. Got it? Then you've got experience 2, the thing you'd like to do well. I pretty much guarantee that when you've gone down the list of things in experience 2, the thing you want to do well, you'll notice there are differences. If you map the things from experience 1 into experience 2, remember, it's not what you're seeing or what you're hearing, it's how you're seeing it. When you map them into experience 2, your experience of experience 2 will change.
Okay.
It will go from, yeah, I think I can do it, to, oh, now it's brighter and sharper. It seems so much more compelling. It seems so much more achievable. Okay. So when you put the qualities into the experience 2, it will become more compelling, an easier goal. It'll become believable. It quite simply, it messes with your belief system. It changes. It goes from impossible to, oh yeah, I can do it. Okay. Okay. So yeah. That's the idea. Okay. So in a sporting environment, I pretty much want you to get into the realm of thinking, I can do that. Does that clear it up for you?
Yeah. I don't think I heard something you would like to do. And so I thought it was the same experience, but I totally understand because, because there's so much, like the first experience was just like biking. I'm not a competitive biker. I don't associate any doubt to that. And then the next one, like being a good relay swimmer. It's just something hard for me because I always think I'm depending on other people. And I could hear already as I was like, should I do that experience? Because I already have that doubt, like even picking that option. So yeah, thank you.
Come a long way with that, I must say though.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
So there might be aspects of the relay swim that you could do with a tweak. And if you spend a little time just reflecting on it, you go, oh, it's this aspect that I'm doubtful about. Okay. Then that thing that you're doubting, map it, work out, go, what is it? How do I see it? How do I hear it? How do I feel it? And then put the other stuff into it. And I'll go, oh, I don't doubt that anymore. It goes into a believable concept. It becomes more tangible to you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. No problem at all. There you go. Any other questions?
Hey, thank you so much. I feel like, this is just my opinion, that you have been one of the best kept secrets. All the way over there in London, because you are excellent. And I discovered that through our conversations, and I appreciate the time we have been able to talk so much.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Great stuff also.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Anna.